Hello and welcome to Required Reading, the podcast that revisits the most impactful books from our childhood. I'm your host, Erin Bowles. I am a writer, actor, and comedian. And today we have a guest coming back. I believe she was in our 6th episode of all time, and this is episode 112. Lizzie Logan.
Hello.
Lizzie is a proud San Francisco native and NYU graduate, and a writer and podcaster who lives in LA, hosting the podcast Hoax with Dana Schwartz. It is a wonderful, wonderful podcast. And the origin of this episode, and we were just talking about, it's May now, but we were just talking about this most recent Thanksgiving. Lizzie was in Nashville at Thanksgiving, and someone said, oh my gosh, my niece is also a podcaster in LA, and it turned out to be my mom's cousin.
Yeah, it was really funny.
So cool. Actually, every podcaster in LA does know each other. You found out.
I was like, there's no way that I know your niece, lady. But I was like, I'll humor you and ask what your niece's name is, what her podcast is called. And she was like, it's Erin, Required Reading. And I was like, oh, I've been on that podcast. Literally, I absolutely know Erin.
Like a founding guest of it. Our book today comes from your podcast because you mentioned it in passing.
Yes, the idea to do this episode.
Yes. You were doing an episode about the Bristol Princess, and offhandedly you said, oh, it's like the Island of Blue Dolphins.
Yes.
And I said, ugh, that is an episode that, like, I know a lot of people have read this book, but I never read it. I've been waiting for someone to bring it up. And I have a theory why. I think it's because I grew up on the East Coast. And this is a distinctly West Coast book.
It is a California book.
Mm-hmm. And it reminded me a lot of an East Coast book that I read in school that I did a couple months ago in January on this podcast, The Witch of Blackbird Pond.
I never read that.
Exactly, but reading them felt very similar. They're published 2 years apart. So I think that was, like, it made it really fun and cool to be like, oh, they fulfill really, like, they're very classroom books, which I'll get into, but so that was really, it takes place right outside of LA, and so it's like, oh, like, we didn't learn about, like, the missions in the California area, but I've seen the dioramas. I know that's a big part.
All we learned about were the missions. We learned about the missions every year. We learned about the Pueblos and the missions in 1st grade, and then we learned about them again in 3rd grade, and then we learned about them again in 5th grade. Because they had to sort of, like, soft launch, like, explaining what colonialism was.
Yes.
Like, I went to, like, a pretty, I guess, progressive school where they were like, well, there were Native Americans, and then there were the priests, and then everyone was Christian, and now you make a diorama. And then we would sort of return to it 2 years later and be like, okay, so it wasn't, like, really chill when these two groups of people first met each other. And then by the time you're, like, a preteen, they were like, so this is what forced conversion looks like.
Oh my gosh.
All we learned about were the missions.
Well, I love thinking about how, like, education can be really local. I think that's perfect because, like, I don't think we ever, like, read a book about Native Americans where I grew up, which is so weird in hindsight. But, like, my high school was, walking distance to a Civil War battlefield. So we read a lot about the Civil War, and I think that is a kind of an equivalent of, like, every year you're like, so actually it was really bad.
Yeah.
And The Island of Blue Dolphins is based on a true story of a young woman who, grew up into a middle-aged woman who lived on San Nicolas Island outside of Los Angeles, which is now a Navy training and weapons testing site. Fascinating.
Yes, and I think at this point, it was when the book was written, and I think now it's just, like, maybe abandoned?
I'm not sure, yeah.
I think you just can't, I think there's, like, kind of nothing there.
Yeah. Although, if you look it up on Google Maps, it will say it's a 17-minute drive from my house, which there's no way. It's an island.
It's an island. You can't drive there.
Fully an island. But love the vision.
I think maybe there's other places called San Nicolas. Because, like, there's also there's an island nearby that's called Santa Barbara. Yes. But it's not Santa Barbara, the town.
Yeah. But Scott Odell, the author, did grow up on maybe Terminal Island nearby, and so people say that's sort of where, because the book is surprisingly, it's extremely grounded, it's very detailed in the natural world around her. But this is 1960, it's the launch of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and it is a really interesting book. It's got very, very simple language. Oh, I'll go back. I forgot to... I was explaining it and then got off track. But it's about this girl who everyone in her island has to evacuate when an indigenous group of people from Alaska come to hunt otters and slaughter everyone, led by sort of Russian business interests. And she gets left behind for like 18 years and is eventually picked up by Christian missionaries and taken to, I think, Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And dies 7 months later of dysentery and is sort of the last of her race. And that is a huge element within the novel. And she spends most of the book by herself and her dog. And it is such a rich book that is extremely readable and accessible. And yeah, I just want to I want to hear all your thoughts. How did this book first come into your life?
We read this book in 4th grade. Mm-hmm. I don't quite remember what we were meant to learn from it. I mean, there's so much to learn from it. Like, I have no doubt that the unit was great, but I just don't remember what.
Yeah.
I don't remember a specific assignment related to it of and then we built a diorama or and then we learned how to hunt or whatever. I just remember that we read it in 4th grade and I remember thinking it was really good. And I remember that, there's a little epilogue explaining that it's based on a real person. But in my head, I had made up a different ending for that lady.
Oh.
And I wonder if I had maybe confused her with other real people. In my head, she was the last of her people.
Yeah.
And what was so sad was that she was the last person who ever spoke her language.
Yeah.
But she had learned enough of another language to tell her story, and that this book was then based on her real story, and she lived, I don't know, another few years or something and had a life back in society.
Yeah. And that's not true.
But no, she never spoke. She just communicated in sighs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was she was trying to communicate with her language, and a nearby indigenous tribe was well, that sort of sounds like our word. And that was barely it. And like you were saying, could never be understood, and she was always smiling. That's kind of it.
I didn't even know about the smile. I had this whole different headcanon for her, but yeah. And so, but I didn't, and I just remember that she just spent a lot of time alone on the island. I had forgotten that she swam back.
Right.
Of her own volition.
That's a really interesting moment. Yeah.
I had, if pressed, I would have told you that she had maybe slept through the boat leaving.
Oh no!
Or that they thought, where it was one of those situations, kind of in The Martian, where they think he's dead and then they leave him behind, or that they thought she was on the boat and they left her behind, where it was some sort of misunderstanding. But I did remember that the boat had sank and that she thought they were coming back for her,
right,
and that they weren't, and it was about her learning to just survive on her own.
Yeah, I think there's they never actually found out anything about her real story, and there are variations of well, she was a mother and her child was left, or in the book it's that she has a younger brother that she goes back for, and he, in a very harsh way, or a very sort of graphic way, even though it happens off screen, her brother gets mauled by a pack of dogs the next chapter after they get abandoned.
Immediately.
And we don't see that happen, but we see the aftermath. And it is very like, and his throat was ripped out and there was blood and he had been dead for a while. This book won the Newbery Medal, which is like the highest American award that a children's book can get. And it like absolutely makes sense that this book, it does that thing that always makes a children's book successful, and it treats its audience with a lot of respect and capability, knowing that your kids can take on this hardness.
I mean, I remember as a kid, like, I was always reading books about kids dying. Yeah. Like, I was a big fan of the Dear America series, where they were always, like, accidentally eating hemlock and, like, getting crushed under wagons and, like, dying of exposure. Like, fourth graders, like, live for kids dying in the olden times, just of things. Because I think that parents think that just, like, the idea of child death is, like, kids can't handle it.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you wouldn't die of now...
Exactly.
I don't think it's that scary.
Exactly. It is that, like, it is definitely more
like,
frightening to parents.
If you get hit by a car, that's really scary because you could get hit by a car now. But if it's, like, a pack of wolves, I mean,
You're pretty safe.
I'm like, that's not scary. I never see a pack of wolves.
Yeah. Although I was a couple months ago at Echo Park picking up a tiramisu. I saw a coyote just trotting down the main street. And I was...
take a coyote.
Everyone was so chill with it. And I was not.
Well, you are smaller than a lot of people.
A lot of people can take a coyote. I don't know that I could. That's a good point. But I think this book does, like, fulfill kind of a fantasy of...
Sorry, can you hear that dog?
That's okay. No, not at all.
Oh. I'm dog sitting. So, okay, so this is the other thing.
Yes.
The main relationship.
Yeah.
That her name's Karana.
I completely forgot her name throughout the whole book, and it kind of doesn't matter. She's the only character, really.
That she has is with the dog that killed her brother.
Mm-hmm.
She wounds and then nurses back to health and then adopts as a pet.
Yes.
And it is beautiful, their relationship. His name is Rontu.
Rontu.
My cat just died.
No, I was going to ask how your cat was doing. No.
She died about a month ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I am also currently dog sitting. So the importance of having a pet when you're all alone was like really hitting while I was rereading this book for this podcast. Really hitting.
Like thinking about things that kids can and can't handle. Like I as an adult could not handle when Rontu dies. That is horrific. Not even the way he dies. He's just old. Like the grief that she goes through. Grief is such a huge presence in this, and the grief that she goes through when Rontu dies is way worse than her as like a 12-year-old losing her whole village, even like before they leave on the boat and the Aleuts come and slaughter everyone.
And then she's like, I have to go get Rontu's son.
Yes.
And I was like, girl, you better go get Rontu's son.
And she poisons him. She gives him a little bit of poison so that he's like weakened. But it's a wonderful scene where she like, with Rontu initially, she spends this whole book, or the first like half the book, being like, I have to kill this wolf. This is my number one enemy. And then she like has her bow and arrow. She is about to shoot him, and she doesn't. And it is a fascinating, gorgeous, like, midpoint and moment. It is, like, really, really bringing some incredible narrative, like, structure and complexity to a children's book. It's fantastic.
So she adopts Rontu's son. Mm-hmm. At one point, she kind of, like, has an otter friend. But then the otter friend goes and joins the other otters. And then she's like, I'm a vegetarian. Or she becomes, like, a pescatarian.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't think we should eat birds or animals, but like all she's ever really eaten is fish. So it's kind of, it's like more of a symbolic pescatarianism because basically all she's ever eaten is fish.
That's all that's there. Yeah.
So she's like, I knew that if my family were around, they would laugh at me for saying that we shouldn't eat animals of the land or sky. But I believe this because animals are my friends. And I'm like, well, girl, like, but you're still eating fish and
Yeah.
like you've always only eaten fish. But like I get it. Like I get she's like learning that like we are all,
Yeah.
you know, one in nature. But like it does have like a very beautiful message about finding community even with other
Definitely.
creatures.
Yeah. And I saw some there she does befriend some birds and it starts by clipping their
Yes.
wings a couple times and that I didn't know that the wings could like grow back. So I was really freaked out
Oh,
at
I thought she was just
first.
taking their feathers.
Oh, maybe. But she like the languages clip their wings, and I guess I
Oh,
just
that
don't
makes
know what
sense.
that meant. But I saw some narratives that were like Scott Odell wrote this after seeing, people hunting and being like really affronted by the brutality of it. And I know that he like learned about this woman and like had the idea of floating around for a long time. And I think wrote the book and then publishers were like, this would be a really good kids book. Which I kind of like, I don't know that I would have expected that, but I do think it like when you are young, you think you are more capable than you are. And I think this book gives you a really wonderful fantasy of living that out and being like, I can take it, and I can do it, but it is hard. I think that's wonderful.
I thought it was so like interesting and relevant and like weirdly spoke to a lot of things that have been like top of mind lately.
Yeah.
There were moments where I was like, oh, she's doing self-care.
Yeah.
Literally though, where I was like, oh, she wants to be pretty. Where she was literally alone on an island. There are no other humans around and she was making a skirt because she
Yeah.
was still a girl.
And the skirt is so important to her.
Because she just wanted to be pretty.
And that is a true detail. Like when they found
Yeah.
her, she really did have a green cormorant feather skirt. And I love that, and I love she works hard to like make jewelry for herself in addition to like making this incredible structure out of whale bones, which archaeologists did find a gigantic structure made out of whale bones. It reminded me a lot of like on a hill when I was like around this age, around fourth grade, when the leaves fell, my friend and I would like compact them into like a mound basically, but we were like, this is a couch and this is a TV,
Yeah.
this is a chair, and building that kind of house for yourself was it was so cool, and I loved again and again how it felt like applicable of like, oh, I could actually make a needle if I had to, and I like it felt very instructive in a really fun way.
Yeah, I mean, kids like that stuff. Like they like
Yes.
if you take a kid camping, they're like, I want to set up the tent. I want to do it
Yes.
myself. And it also felt very like, I mean, I don't want to like go down a whole rabbit hole of talking about
Go
like
it.
trad
Do
wives
it.
or whatever.
Do it.
But like the ability to make things from scratch
Huge.
is like cool and empowering and like another one of her sort of arcs because she doesn't, I mean, obviously she doesn't really like change that much from the beginning to the end because it's just her like surviving for
Yeah.
15 years. But one of the ways that she does change is that she makes weapons, which women in her tribe were not supposed to do. And so there is this sense of like working with your hands, knowing how to do things for yourself, and like having skills. And like, I don't know, I think there is something to like, teach your daughter how to change a tire. Like,
Yes.
there's something very cool about like, not because of any sort of like, feminist agenda, but just because she might need to one day.
It's just
like just because it's
practicality.
handy.
100%. It is a degree of agency. I read some older, like, scholarly articles about why this is such a successful book from, like, educational journals. And one thing that people often said was, like, it succeeds because she is kind of, like, agender and, like, unisex. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but okay. And one thing I did keep thinking through this is, like, is she getting her period? Why is that not a chapter?
Yeah.
But, like, I'm kind of okay that Scott Odell did not depict that. It's okay.
I mean, she probably doesn't have like the body fat to get a period,
That's a
but
good point. Like a gymnast. Yeah.
yeah, but she might also be getting. I mean, I think it's like one of the like. Did you see Hamnet?
Yeah.
Like those kids were like born without umbilical cords because it was like that wasn't the point. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like sometimes we can like gloss over biology.
You're absolutely right.
Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like that's not the point. Like the point is that the baby's here.
Yeah. 100%. You're so right. Yeah. And it is like, well, that's a different book. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
like
That's not the point.
the Judy Blume version, she would get a period, but like,
Yeah.
I
100%.
was also really impressed with her executive functioning of how clearly she took all of her projects and broke them down into steps.
Yeah.
Every 20 pages or so, she was like, okay, I want to kill this kind of creature. So what do I need to do? Okay, I need to get the weakest one alone. Okay, what time of year do I need to do that? Okay, by that time, I need to have this type of weapon. Okay, I need to kill this type of creature to make that type of weapon, which means I need to have this type of wood, and I need to have this type of thing, and I need this thing. So for 2 days, I'm gonna make this wood. And for 2 days, and she would like, she was just like really organized in a way.
Yes. She had a clear understanding, something that there was like a preface in mind by a different author that I was very struck by the way it talked about time, because it would just be like, and then the summer passed, and then the next winter came, and it's when you are like looking for it, it is these massive jumps in time. But she understands, well, this animal is going to be gone during the winter, and this thing is going to be, this is going to be a good time to do this project. And there's even when she's trying to get seals, she realizes like, oh, it's gonna be almost like, or a whale, maybe I'm misremembering, but she's like, killing this thing is gonna be hard. It will be easier if it just dies, and then I can still get the things that I need. I thought that was brilliant, and that just an incredible amount of resourcefulness within it. She's
So resourceful.
Yeah.
I was surprised she only tried to leave once.
Yeah, and that is like a fascinating story moment. And it's pretty early on, she gets one of the existing canoes and starts going, and just realizes that like it's too far and she's not going to be capable of doing it, and goes home. I think I was satisfied with that, like from a narrative perspective. But it's really sad to see those moments where she's like, oh, actually, no one's coming for me, and this is it.
I did sort of think like she tries to leave sort of early on. And I get that, whatever, 2 seasons later, the canoes have now sort of degraded. And even though she's much stronger, like it's just not feasible for one person to make a canoe. But I'm like, you're so much strong. Like, she has so much more capability. I'm like, couldn't you make some kind of raft? And like, that surprised me. And then she gets a visitor who seems chill, and she like tries to sort of go with her. Yeah. But then they leave without her. And I was a little like, not being like, you should have tried harder, but I was like, yeah, I was just surprised that there wasn't more of a desperation, knowing that there is some visitation to the island and that someone has now seen her, to try to like, send up a smoke signal or something.
I'm glad you brought that up. That character, the young girl.
Tutok.
Tutok.
Tutok was a homie.
Tutok.
Girlhood. They were being girls together. They were complimenting the skirt, and they shared the dog.
It was
Tutok's dog, but then she gave her to Karama. I love Tutok.
It was Tutok's dog, and she comes back, and that was the thing that I was like, this is so meaty, is that Rontu, the dog, is like an Aleut and Russian dog who gets abandoned and left there in the same way that she does. I didn't catch that until like this morning when I was going through my highlights in the book. And the narrative with Rontu is so similar, and like so beautifully foreshadows everything that happens with Tutok, of like, I'm gonna kill her, but something holds me back. And this friendship develops, and like you're saying, like, Tutok, they don't have a shared language, but Tutok is complimenting her skirt, and then Karama like makes her earrings and spends so much time using the sand to smooth it out.
She makes her like a hair thing, I think.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have pierced ears. She wants to make her earrings, but she doesn't have pierced ears.
It's so gorgeous.
And she says that they spent all day sitting and laughing, just telling each other
pointing.
What different words were.
Yeah, it is devastating, because it's like,
I was like, get on the boat. You have a friend.
Get on the boat. Although because early on she like notices that there's a woman or like a girl with
Yeah.
the alerts. And I, of course, as an adult with like looking for the bad stuff, I was like, that girl is in danger. Tutok isn't, what is she doing
Yeah.
with all of those men? But again, that's a different book. That's not what we're here for.
That's not for fourth graders.
That's not what we're here for, but it is a gorgeous, gorgeous relationship. And just like one day she doesn't come back. Like Karama knows that the ship is going to leave one day. Those passages especially, it's kind of near when Rontu dies later, and she's just like staring out into the ocean. And it's so... I was astonished by the emotional grip that this had.
Yeah. And I had completely forgotten about her.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is like, it's contrary to the concept.
It's not surprising that I forgot things that happened when I read a book in fourth grade. But
it's a beautiful book, and there's an element, of course, of like, well, these are the people who killed her family and caused all of this, and yet they are people, or at least Tutok is, and that an individual sort of can't be held responsible for the horrible actions of a group. What was interesting to me is that, like, this is another indigenous group doing this to the people of the island of Blue Dolphins under the, like, command of the Russians, who are described as having long teeth, which for some reason stuck in my head. I don't know why.
maybe they eat like softer food, so their teeth aren't like.
Because they said about the aleuts, their teeth have been like worn down by chewing on, I guess, seals.
I think that there's a tendency to stereotype indigenous people as like peaceful hippies who lived in perfect harmony in the trees until the mean white people came along and wiped them out with smallpox, which is like there's truth there, but it's also sort of like an offensive portrayal to
It's flattening,
yeah, it's flattening and like two-dimensional is flattening, but like it's not like, of course they had like wars among each other and like there's bad guys on all sides, like they're like there's like flawed people in every culture and like, you know what I mean, like it is like there's like the noble savage and like the innocent and like those are also stereotypes, you know, like there's no real people who are like that, who are just like innocent and untouched and like don't know the ways of the world, and like no, like indigenous cultures also fought one another and had wars and had hierarchies and had patriarchy and had all the things that other cultures did.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like aughts and early 2010s discussions around female representation of like the best representation is not like the most flattering, it is the most
strong
equal
female character.
Exactly. Where it, you know, the best representations are the one where that you're saying essentially like people are people, wow. And in some of the discussions about this, people sort of said like, well, it perpetuates this idea of like the vanishing Indian, which I understand that criticism, and yet that is like, and I'm not an indigenous person, so I don't get to have the last word on this. But it is like, well, that is a thing that happened. And so it is important to discuss that tragedy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it also, like, it really struck me early on. She, at one point, gives numbers of, like, how many people there were on the island before the conflict and how many people were left after, but before they got on the boat.
Yeah, it's
and
like
I'm
30 people.
Yeah, I'm like, and this is not at all to be like, well, it's okay that they had a war or whatever, but I was like, you did not have a lot of people before. Like, you were one sort of like bad flu away from your whole tribe being wiped out.
Yeah. It is an extremely isolated island. Yeah.
Yes, and not a very populous one. So I was very I was like, oh, this was a real small pocket of a civilization.
Yeah.
And then I, looked up on Wikipedia and they had been there since like thousands of years before anybody. And I was like, it's crazy they've made it that long and then sort of blinked out. And then there was like the one, it's a crazy story. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I appreciate that it is Scott Odell lets that sort of complexity just kind of sit and I don't know, aerate like a fine wine and just like leave that open to interpretation. I think there are great moments of, I think this is a wonderful classroom book. It reminded me a lot of this book, Witch of Blackbird Pond, which I read in 4th grade, of providing so many moments to sit down and say like, okay, and this is how they made sewing needles, and maybe if you want you can like have that as a practice, you know, have that as a little interactive activity, and then move on to like their culture has like the given name and a secret name. And this is like never really touched on, but the father almost immediately gives the visitors his secret name. And the main character is like, that's why he died. That's why all of these bad things happened. I don't know why he gave them that name. And I think that's a great discussion question. Why did he give him his secret name?
That's also like such a writer thing. You know what I mean? Where I was like, clearly Scott Odell made that up. But like, I mean, I'm sure that there are some traditions that have a secret name and a real name, but the fact that the chief gave them the secret name, I was like, Scott Odell made that up. There's no like that bit was some foreshadowing.
Yeah. And she gives Tutok her secret name. Yeah.
Yeah, well, first she gives her a fake name, and then she's like, Tutok, and Tutok's like, what? And then she's like,
she has to explain, like, no, this is my other name, my second name. And like, Tutok doesn't really understand it, but goes with it, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, oh, I loved that. And how she's always, whenever she goes to like a new part of the island, and also you could, I mean, I didn't bother like looking up a map.
Yeah.
But you could really get a sense of the island. Like, she's always describing where things are in relation to each other and like where the wind is coming from.
Yeah.
And this is just east of here, and then this is a few paces away from there. And she keeps checking and being like, and my ancestors used to sleep here, and my ancestors used to be here, and my ancestors used to use this for this. And then at one point she like runs into like some skeletons.
Yeah.
Like, you really get a sense of like that her people and the island are like intertwined.
Yeah.
But not, I felt not in like a sort of magical.
It didn't feel stereotypical. It just felt like that's how you exist.
Yeah, it just felt like we've just legitimately been here for so long.
Yeah.
That at one point we lived in every single cave and cove here. It didn't feel like I could feel the spirits in every little part. I know every rock here. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like any of that sort of woo-woo.
Yeah, it's
bad
not
writing.
Like the talking tree in Pocahontas, that like has all of her ancestors in it.
You know, Pocahontas has like some pros and some obvious cons, but like it's going for a very different thing.
Yeah,
because she's trying to teach like about nature. But yeah, I didn't. She was just like, everywhere I go, I just like run into where the ancestors were. But yeah, I just thought it was like obviously a very good use of setting. But, you know, the book is called Island of the Blue Dolphins.
But I like that you say that, because the narrative is like there's this huge slaughter, and then there's a small group of mostly like women and old men and children. And then after a while, a boat comes for them and brings them home. And it's, you know, only a few chapters, but that moment between the, you know, massacre and the boat coming, she talks so much about, like, we felt our family members, like, walking beside us. And again, it's not in that magical sense. It's a sense of grief, of, like, everywhere we look, we are thinking about these people. They describe it almost as, like, a sickness comes over all of the people, of just, like, melancholy and, like, staring into space. And I think, like, dealing with grief is not a thing, in my experience, that comes up a lot in children's books. And I think that's really important. You know, like you said, it's like we have all these ideas of things that we want to protect our kids from, when it's like, that's an adult fear. That is not a thing that is representative of, like, what a child can go through.
Yeah. What is The Witch of Blackbird Pond about?
Yeah, so it is about a young girl who grows up in the Caribbean initially. She's white, she's like a plantation owner's granddaughter, and then he dies and she is sent to live with like an aunt in basically outside of Salem. And she is different and she stands out, but there's a lot of like, this is how the Pilgrims made candles, and this is, you know, how you did this and that, which is similar, reminded me a lot to this book. And then near the end, because she is the outsider, they accuse her of witchcraft. And she's like, it gets really dark really fast. She's like basically locked in a shed. I love that book except for the trial sequence, because like, how are you gonna, you know, go through this and not have her hanged? And it's basically like a guy is like, actually, I think she's good. Goodbye. And
Oh, nice. Thank you,
he's
guy.
actually like, well, what's crazy is like, actually, this was my bitch wife's idea, and I'm gonna stand up to her now. And I'm not gonna get kicked around anymore. And like, literacy is good. And that's kind of it.
Sure.
The Witch of Blackbird Pond is an old lady who lives by the lake and is also an outsider because she's a Quaker. But that's very rooted in the social aspects of that area and of religious puritanism and sexism. And she's really put upon by all of these social structures and all of the things that you can't do, and the consequences of being a little bit different is going to get you locked in a shed. So it's interesting how, like, not antisocial, but how, I mean, it's one character and some animals, and how the community grows around that in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, that sounds good. I was surprised also. I feel like although maybe if I'd grown up on this island, I wouldn't injure myself, but I was surprised that she only got hurt once.
Yeah.
She hurts her leg, and then she's like, I had to wait 5 whole days in this cave, and then my leg was better. And I was like, and she doesn't even have like a limp after that.
No. And luckily she knows, you know, the herbs that work. And I sort
They
of...
work on dogs too.
They work
She
on
also
dogs
knows
too.
the herbs for dogs.
That is true, because Rontu is injured, and then maybe Rontu too is also injured. But yeah, you're right. She and again, maybe that is like, that's a different book. And they certainly, like, the book ends when she gets on this ship. And she is told, like, yeah, everyone else that, like, was in your family, they died. Like,
Yeah.
either they, like, didn't get to the island, or, like, they died immediately. I think the ship sinks or something.
It's phrased really weirdly,
Yeah.
where it's like, it sank when it got there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, did it get there or did it sink? But like, okay.
Yeah.
I read this on like a PDF that I got from like a sketchy website. So I might have, like, it might not be the actual text. So.
But it is, like, at least I got an ebook from the library. It's like the last page that happens.
Yeah.
And there's really no reckoning with that. There's no getting to the island. It's just like, and then me and my dog and my birds got on and we looked at the sea, which I think is like a good ending for this. You know, again, it's like...
I mean, it's about her time on the island. So
Exactly.
when she leaves the island, book's kind of over.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it is, like, so sad. She never had a name in, you know, the real story of it. She dies almost immediately of dysentery. I think he, like, ends it as best as he can, besides, like, her getting there and all of her friends are there. And it's nice. She, like, dolls herself up when the final ship comes.
And then they make her put on a dress.
Yeah, they take...
Made of pants.
They make her take off her beautiful skirt. And she even said, because she has an older sister who gets on the boat and, like, leaves really quickly.
Ulape.
But she, like, does ulape. She does her
With the
makeup for, like, to signal that she's an unmarried woman, even though in the real story she's, like, 50 at this point. Obviously, they don't actually know. It's like you said, like, she's still a girl. She's still carrying that with her. What do you think, like, what are the main takeaways from this book? Like, what is the lessons that Odell is trying to impart? I think for me, it's like, this is what another culture looked like. Animals are community. We have to love them and be kind to them. You are more capable than you expect. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's like a good survival story for girls. Because I think there's a lot of those for boys, like, you know, I mean, Lord of the Flies, obviously, but, like, there's, like, in the book, like, Hatchet is, like, the one that I would always see at the library, and then there's, I don't know, I feel like there's always books about, like, like a kid and his like falcon like
Yeah.
going into the woods or
Yeah,
whatever.
in the epilogue of this one, it's described as Girl Robinson Crusoe, which I was like a little offensive, but also
Sure, like, you know,
it fits.
Treasure rather go like
Yeah.
So the fact that it's like this woman freaking survived on her own on an island for years and years, and like respect to girls, respect to Native Americans. Like, I don't think you could strand a white person that long. I think we'd die of exposure day 3.
I did tragically the whole time. I was like, God, she's getting so sunburned through all of it.
Oh my God, when she makes, you know what really cracked me up though?
What?
Was when she makes little sunglasses that are just pieces of wood with little slits.
With like the tiniest
Yeah,
slit.
they're just pieces of wood that she's like stuck onto her eyes that have little holes.
Yes, but yet I'm like, I've
like-
seen that somehow. I've like seen that.
But I was also like, can she make a hat? I was like, I wanted her to make like a straw hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, animals like go on in the face of immense grief, self-reliance.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of children's books have the message of like, when you hit a rough patch, rely on your community, which is great. But what if you don't have a community? Rely on yourself.
And that's certainly like, even if you are not in this extreme situation,
Yeah.
there are certainly children, like children who are going through a grief at a young age. There are certainly kids who are alienated and feel alone, even if you are like not literally alone. Childhood, again, something through all of this podcast, is such an isolating experience. That I like, it is that like capability, I think, that is a real, in the same way that great books that give you this aspect of like treating you as an adult, as a reader. I think it echoes that really beautifully. Yeah.
When she starts talking to Rontu, she says, I didn't realize how lonely I was until I had Rontu to talk to. And I was like,
Beautiful.
yeah, like all you need is like, is this your kitty?
Yeah, this is my youngest. I have 2. This is Bear.
Hi, Bear.
Speak, Bear. Can you hear her?
I can hear her purring.
She's 2, and she's so long.
Very fluffy. Got a little white tongue.
Little white spot.
Hi, Bear.
Goodbye, Bella. Okay, I'm looking at my notes. Is there anything... She does not want that. Is there anything that you know you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered?
I did find, it's interesting, the writing style, I did find like slight, maybe not problematic, because like that's not really for me to say as a white person, but I did feel it slipping a little bit into like Native American voice just at the beginning. When she's like, the sea was dark like a shining stone. And I was like, come on. Like, you could just say it was dark. Like, you don't have to make everything like a metaphor that would occur to a Native American person. You know, where I was like, sort of that voice of the all-knowing, all-seeing. I was like, this is a 12-year-old girl. Like, does she have to speak in nature metaphors all the time?
Exactly.
But once she became focused on the day-to-day, I felt that slip away. So I... just as a reader, nothing stuck out to me as like offensive or stereotypical, but you know, as we've, I think, both sort of briefly acknowledged, like we're not experts on this. So obviously if anything pinged for anyone, then like that's valid. But just, when I was first reading it, I was like, ooh, did this not age well? Is this gonna like give me the ick all the way through? But then as we got into it, I was like, no, like this is like, I would say it didn't give me the ick. Just right at the beginning, I was like, we don't need all these metaphors.
Yeah, I think there is like a stereotypical, maybe in like Westerns, kind of like cadence that is given to the way Native Americans speak, even like in like sort of abridged, shortened sentences. And so like I had a similar thing at the beginning, but ultimately like I really appreciated the very sort of staccato sentence structure in this, because it's so readable. It's like, and then I did this, and then I did that. And that's definitely bothered me in like adult books, but it's like, it's gonna get you through. It's gonna like keep you reading at a 4th grade. Like there's nothing wrong with reading at a 4th grade reading level as a 4th grader, you know? It's really approachable in that way. Wow. Would you consider it required reading?
Sure. Yeah. I think this
so.
is like a great jumping off point, because I think it covers so much that like you could read this and have it be the basis for like a biology course and talk
Exactly.
about the plants. You could talk about the marine life. You could talk about the animals. You could talk about the birds. You could talk about survival skills. You could, I mean, obviously, you could talk about it like in an English class. There's a lot that's going on interesting narratively. You could talk about it in a history class. You could talk about it in like, I mean, I guess fourth graders don't really take sociology, but like, you could talk about
an
it
approachable
like,
way to that. Yeah.
you could talk about it. You could just have like a little classroom discussion about like, how do different cultures interact and what does it mean that she had like a pretty good conversation? Like, how can we be two talks in our life? How
Yes.
can we be there for each other when we see someone who is isolated? How can we become friends with them? Like I think that it's just like a pretty rich narrative
Yeah.
with a lot of different that touches on a lot of different educational topics without feeling preachy. And added benefit, it's a true story that is about a Native American girl, and like we're not exactly lousy with Native American girls held up as heroes in history.
Yeah.
I think we could use some more representation there.
Yeah, I think like that is definitely like a character that at least with a yeah that doesn't really get a lot of airtime.
Yeah.
Besides like Pocahontas and Sacagawea, which are
Who we love.
obviously who we love, but obviously like have not had the a narrative like as empowering I think as this one, especially like for young kids.
We need a California one.
We need a California one. Yeah, I think this is such a great classroom book with so many opportunities of like integration, like you said. One day you can read a chapter and then do a little science lesson, and then one day you can read a chapter and do a little history lesson. This won the Newbery Medal, which of Blackbird Pond won the Newbery Medal 2 years before, and I think that is something that like often those Newbery Medal winners do, is that it is not just a good book, it is like a good book to spur learning in kind of all categories. Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Where can people find you? Of course, Hoax, beautiful podcast.
Yeah, it's Hoax, just Hoax. It's just Hoax, exclamation point. It's on every podcast streaming platform, and we have the Instagram, which is at Hoax the Podcast. As we are recording this, we're Dana and I have one episode left to record of Hoax season 1. So you can listen to them in any order, but we're about to have our full season out. So we would love to just keep those streams going, keep those likes going, keep, rate, review, subscribe, because we are going to be taking it out to see who is interested in taking us for season 2. We're going to be finding a new home for it. So it would be great to get some extra support. So please go support Hoax.
Woohoo! And now, as of like episode 100, I've started ending the podcast with the final sentence, paragraph of the book.
Ooh.
So I've got that here up with me. Dolphins rose out of the sea and swam before the ship. They swam for many leagues in the morning through the bright water, weaving their foamy patterns. The little birds were chirping in their cage, and Rontu Aru sat beside me. The end.
Man, that's good writing.
No, that's good.
Good.
I'll end it there.
My hot take.
Good.
Good writing, Scott Odell.